Some general best practices to follow include the following. An appropriate use of options in the Build tab. For example, do you want to allow simultaneous executions? And is your listener process set to low latency? A process should be designed to be rerunnable. This helps when rerunning a process after a partially failed execution. Whenever possible, define as a true date in both the source and destination profile of a map. Avoid using the date convert function. Decouple the process flow whenever appropriate. And in general, the business rule shape is preferable to a group of decision shapes. Multiple disk connection components should be avoided. Instead, you can specify directories with a set properties shape or within the Connector Parameters tab. If possible, use sync flags to select source data instead of using last successful run date. If you need to use a date for source selection, store and use the highest date from the source system instead of using last successful run date. If necessary, split the document before a document cache shape. Some best practices regarding performance include minimize connector calls, pull data together when possible, cache documents where appropriate, function cache where appropriate. Avoid making repeated connector or database calls on a per document basis whenever possible. Instead, consider caching. Minimize or eliminate the use of run each document individually feature for high volume processes. Use batching where possible. And if needed and appropriate, employ parallel processing. When writing to NetSuite, consider using external IDs to avoid having to look up internal IDs. Eliminate the use of map function ordering if it's not needed. And ask these questions. How many records per unit of time is the process expected to handle? Has it been tested at this volume? If it's a high volume, is the process set up appropriately for high volume, with caching, parallel processing, and so on? Perform these final checks on your process. Make sure the process has been unit tested and everything has been documented. High volume processes should be performance tested. Be sure execution instructions are documented. What should a user do if the process fails? Retry docs, rerun the process, reset flags or dates? Identify who will monitor the executions and how. Make sure that proper user management is in place. Finally, with bidirectional syncs, be sure ping-ponging has been avoided. For example, if accounts are synced from System A to System B in one process, and then System B back to System A in another process, if you have both processes running using last modified date logic, a record could bounce indefinitely between one system and the other.